The pot roast was perfectly cooked, just like every Sunday dinner for the past 25 years. My mother, Diana, sat at the head of the table, meticulously arranging her napkin while my father, James, carved the meat with practiced precision. My younger sister, Emma, texted under the table, barely concealing her phone behind her designer purse. Everything looked normal, peaceful even. But I could feel it, the tension crackling in the air like static before a storm. "Sophie," my mother's voice cut through the silence, sharp as a knife. "I noticed you're still working at that little bookstore." I nodded, taking a small bite of potato. "Yes, I am." "When are you going to get a real job?" Emma just got promoted to senior manager at her firm. The comparison was nothing new. Emma, the biological daughter, the golden child, could do no wrong. "I like my job, Mom," I replied quietly, "and I'm actually." "Like your job?" She set down her fork with a clang. "You're 28, living in a tiny apartment, working at a bookstore. Do you know how embarrassing it is when my friends ask about you?" My father studied his plate intently, while Emma's thumbs continued their rapid dance across her phone screen. Neither of them would meet my eyes. "Mom, please," I started, but she wasn't finished. "I've tried so hard with you, Sophie. God knows I've tried. When we adopted you, I thought—" She shook her head. "I thought I could love you like my own." The room went silent. Even Emma's fingers stilled over her phone. "What did you say?" My voice was barely a whisper. My mother stood up, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "You heard me. I'm tired of pretending. You're not my real daughter, and you never will be. I've spent 25 years trying to mold you into something acceptable. But you're just not." I felt the words hit me like physical blows, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I reached for my bag, the one I'd started bringing to these dinners 6 months ago, when I first discovered the truth about my family. "Sophie, sit down." My father finally spoke, his voice weak. "Your mother's just upset." "Upset?" My mother laughed, a harsh sound that held no warmth. "I'm beyond upset. I'm done. Done watching her waste her life. Done explaining to everyone why my daughter can't be more like her sister. Done pretending that this experiment in adoption was anything but a mistake." Emma finally looked up, her perfect features arranged in a mask of concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mom, maybe you should." "No, Emma. It's time someone said it. Sophie, I want you out of this house. No more Sunday dinners, no more holidays, no more pretending we're one big happy family." I stood up slowly, my chair making no sound against the floor. My hands didn't shake as I picked up my bag. Years of preparation had led to this moment, though I hadn't expected it to come quite like this. "Nothing to say." My mother's voice dripped with disdain. "Typical. Even now, you can't show a hint of backbone." I looked at each of them in turn. My father, suddenly fascinated by his wedding ring. Emma, already returning to her phone. And finally my mother, standing there with 25 years of barely concealed resentment written across her face. "Thank you for dinner," I said softly, then turned and walked toward the door. "That's it," my mother called after me. "You're just going to leave. No drama, no tears." I paused at the doorway, my hand on the knob. What did you expect? I expected something. Anything. You're being kicked out of your family for God's sake. I smiled then, just slightly. "No, Mom, I'm being kicked out of your family. There's a difference." With that, I walked out, closing the door gently behind me. As I got into my car, I could see them through the dining room window, my mother gesturing wildly, my father slumped in his chair, Emma finally looking up from her phone with something like worry on her face. They had no idea what I discovered 6 months ago when I accidentally found those old papers in the attic. No idea that I knew the truth about my adoption, not just the fact that I was adopted, which I always known, but the real story, the one they kept hidden for 25 years, the one that would change everything. As I drove away from the house I'd once called home, I felt lighter than I had in years. Let them think they'd thrown me away. Let them think they'd finally broken me. In 6 months, when everything was ready, they'd learned just how wrong they were. 6 months earlier, I'd been helping my father clean the attic when I found the metal box tucked behind old party decorations. He'd stepped out to take a call, and something about the way the box was hidden caught my attention. Inside, beneath yellowed newspapers and faded photographs, I found documents that changed everything. My adoption papers weren't from the agency my parents had always mentioned. Instead, They were connected to one of the wealthiest families in the country, the Andersons. More specifically, I was Catherine Anderson's daughter. The same Catherine Anderson who disappeared from public life 28 years ago, only to return a year later, continuing her work as one of the most successful businesswomen in the country. The same Catherine Anderson who'd recently been in the news for her plans to step down as CEO of Anderson Technologies, with no clear successor in sight. I spent weeks digging deeper, carefully piecing together the truth. My biological mother hadn't given me up willingly. She'd been forced to by her father, who thought a scandal would ruin their family name. The Winters, my adoptive family, had been paid handsomely to take me and keep quiet. The money they'd received, they'd used it to start their successful business, the one Emma now helped run. The same business they'd never let me be part of, always claiming I wasn't qualified enough. My entire life had been built on their lies. After discovering the truth, I reached out to Catherine Anderson through a private investigator. The meeting was arranged in secret, at a small cafe 3 hours from my hometown. "I've been looking for you," were her first words to me. She had the same dark hair as mine, the same green eyes. "For 25 years, I've been searching." She told me everything. How her father had forced her to give me up, how she tried to find me once she took over the company, how the adoption records had been sealed and hidden. "I'm stepping down as CEO soon," she said, holding my hand across the table. "I've built this company into something extraordinary, but I never wanted it for myself. I wanted it for you." Over the next few months, I worked with Catherine in secret. She arranged for me to take business courses online, taught me everything about the company, prepared me for what was to come. All while I continued working at my little bookstore, which was actually a successful chain of independent bookstores I built myself, using the knowledge I gained from watching my adoptive parents run their business. I kept it quiet, using a different name, letting them think I was just a simple employee. The irony wasn't lost on me. The night of that final family dinner, after my mother's cruel words, I drove straight to Catherine's penthouse. "They finally did it," I said, sitting on her luxurious couch. "They threw me out." Catherine's face hardened. "Are you okay?" I nodded, feeling strangely calm. "I am. For the first time, I really am." She smiled, pulling out a folder filled with documents. "Then I think it's time. The board meeting is next week. Are you ready?" "I've been ready my whole life," I replied. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages from Emma. "Mom's freaking out," she wrote. She didn't mean what she said. "Come home." I didn't respond. My father called next. "Princess, your mother was just upset. We can work this out." I let it go to voicemail. Even my mother tried, her message stiff and formal. "Sophie, you're being childish. We need to discuss this like adults." Like adults. As if she hadn't just thrown away 25 years of supposed motherhood in a single dinner. Instead of responding, I focused on the final preparations with Catherine. We reviewed company reports, went over the presentation for the board, fine-tuned every detail of the announcement. "They won't know what hit them," Catherine said, pride evident in her voice. A week after that disastrous dinner, as my adoptive family continued their barrage of messages and calls, the business world was rocked by breaking news. Catherine Anderson announces successor for Anderson Technologies. Long-lost daughter returns to take the helm. My phone rang again. This time, it was Emma. "Sophie," she gasped. You're on the news. You're Catherine Anderson's daughter? How is this possible?" I smiled, looking out the window of my new office on the top floor of Anderson Technologies. "You should ask Mom and Dad," I replied calmly. "They can explain exactly how possible it is." The line went silent for a moment. They knew. All this time they knew. "Ask them about the money they received 25 years ago," I said. "Ask them what they did with it. Ask them why they really never let me join the family business." I hung up, turning back to my desk where Catherine, my real mother, stood with a proud smile. "Ready for the press conference?" she asked. I stood smoothing down my designer suit. More than ready. It was time to show my adoptive family exactly what their disappointing daughter could do. The press conference was a whirlwind of camera flashes and rapid-fire questions. I stood at the podium, Catherine beside me, as we shared our story with the world. Well, parts of it anyway. "Miss Anderson, how does it feel to discover your true heritage? What are your plans for the company? Were you surprised to learn about your biological mother?" I answered each question with the poise Catherine had helped me perfect over the last 6 months. No one needed to know about the tears, the anger, or the years of feeling like I wasn't enough. This wasn't about revenge. It was about claiming what was rightfully mine. The real show began when my adoptive parents arrived at Anderson Technologies the next day, demanding to see me. Security called up, and I instructed them to let the Winters through. It was time to finish this. They burst into my office, looking completely out of place among the modern decor and floor-to-ceiling windows. My mother's perfect makeup couldn't hide her panic, and my father's usual confidence had vanished. "Sophie," my mother started, then corrected herself. "Catherine Jr., we can explain." I leaned back in my chair, taking in their desperate expressions. "Explain what? How you took money to hide me from my real mother, or how you used that money to start your business while treating me like a burden?" "We gave you everything," my father protested weakly. "A home and education. The bare minimum," I cut in, "while Emma got the best of everything. Private school, expensive cars, a guaranteed position in the family business. Tell me how much of her privilege was bought with the money you received for taking me." They exchanged guilty looks, and I knew I hit the mark. "Where's Emma?" I asked, noting my sister's absence. She's not speaking to us," my mother admitted. "After she learned the truth, I couldn't help but laugh. Your perfect daughter finally saw you for who you really are." "We did what we thought was best," my father insisted. "We needed that money, and you needed a home." "No," I stood up, placing my hands on the desk. "What I needed was the truth. What I needed was parents who didn't make me feel like I was never enough. What I needed was a family who loved me for who I was, not what they could get from hiding me." My mother stepped forward, reaching out. "We did love you, Sophie. We still do. Please, we can't lose everything we've built." And there it was. Not "we can't lose you," or "we're sorry for what we did." They were worried about their business, their reputation, their standing in society. "You won't lose everything," I said, pulling out a folder. "I'm not like you. Inside this folder is a contract. Anderson Technologies is acquiring your company at a very generous price. You'll retain your positions, under new management of course. Emma too, if she wants to stay." They stared at the documents in shock. "Why?" my father asked. "After everything we did." "Because 25 years ago, you taught me my first business lesson. Everything has a price. Consider this me paying you back for all those years of raising me. We're even now." Catherine chose that moment to enter the office. My mother physically recoiled at the sight of her. "Mr. and Mrs. Winters." Catherine's voice was ice cold. "I trust to find the terms of the acquisition fair, though it's more than you deserve after what you did." "We'll sue," my mother threatened weakly. "We'll tell everyone how you abandoned your daughter." "No, you won't," I said calmly, "because that story makes you look far worse than it does us. Sign the contract, keep your positions, and we'll all move forward professionally. Or don't, and watch everything you built with that blood money crumble." They signed. As they left my office, my mother turned back one last time. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not for what we did, but for what I said at dinner. You were always more capable than we gave you credit for." I nodded but said nothing. Her words meant little now. After they left, Catherine put her arm around me. "Are you okay?" "I am," I replied, surprising myself by how true it felt. "They don't have the power to hurt me anymore." 2 weeks later, I received a letter from Emma. Inside was a photo of us as children, playing in the backyard. "I didn't know," she wrote. "I'm sorry for every time I made you feel less than. For what it's worth, you were always the better daughter, the better person. I'd like a chance to know my real sister if you'll let me." I placed the photo on my desk, next to one of Catherine and me at the press conference, the past and present side by side. My phone buzzed with a message from Catherine. "Dinner tonight? Just us." I smiled, typing back a quick yes. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you end up with. Sometimes the path to finding yourself means losing everything you thought you were. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well on your own terms. I had finally found my place, my purpose, and my real family, and that was worth more than any revenge would ever be.